Hi, good morning, everyone. So go ahead and pause the video and complete your warm-up. All right, so to begin solving number one, it says, what is the value of x? I want to take a look at what angles I'm dealing with. So I'm dealing with this one right here, 2x minus 10, and this one right here, 110. So for these problems, I need to figure out if they're going to be supplementary or if they're going to be congruent. So taking a look right here, I can see that this one is an obtuse angle. This one right here is also an obtuse angle because it is greater than 90 degrees. So I can figure out that they are congruent. Another way for me to figure that out is this one is congruent to this angle because it is a vertical angle. This one right here, I could slide down to equal 110, which is another way for me to figure out that these two angles, 2x minus 10 and 110, are congruent. If they are congruent, then I set them equal to each other. So I can begin solving by doing 110 equals 2x minus 10. To get x by itself, I first have to deal with this negative 10, and I do the inverse plus 10 on both sides. These cancel out, and I have 110 plus 10 is 120 on the left side. On the right, there's 2x remaining. I have to divide by 2 to do the opposite of multiplying by 2. These cancel, and my final answer will be x equals 120 divided by 2, which is 60. Let's see if that answers the question. What is the value of x? It does. So x equals 60 is my final answer. For number 2, it's saying triangle ABC is dilated using a scale factor to produce the following shape. What is the scale factor? So if I think about what scale factor means, it means multiplication. So let's begin with our original shape, A, B, and C. So my coordinates for A, which is down here, is going to be 2, 1. B, right here, is going to be 5, 1. And then C is going to be 3, 6. Because the next shape has prime next to it, I know that that's what's going to be the new coordinates after the transformation. So I have A prime, B prime, and C prime. The value of A prime right here is going to be 6, 3, because remember x goes first and then y. Letter B prime is going to be 15, 3. And then C prime up here is going to be 9, 18. So, like I said before, scale factor means multiplication. So I need to figure out what the multiplication number will be to get from my regular or my pre-image to my image. So I go from 2 to 6. I know 2 times 3 is 6. 1 times 3 is 3. 5 times 3 is 15. 1 times 3 is 3. 3 times 3 is 9. 6 times 3 is 18. So quickly I can figure out that my scale factor to get from my pre-image to my image is going to be a scale factor of 3 as your final answer. All right, translation. So if I read this problem, I need to figure out the important information. It will be translated 3 units down and 5 units to the left. Now, translated, if you guys remember, means to slide. So I'm going to slide all of these values 3 units down and 5 units to the left. I'll begin with y. So 3 units down, I go 1, 2, 3, and then I go 5 to the left. So let me color match this. 3 down, 1, 2, 3, and 5 to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So my new coordinate is going to be y prime at negative 3, negative 1. Same thing for the x value. I go down 3 units, 1, 2, 3, and I go down 5 units to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And when I do that, my x value right here is going to be x prime and negative 3, 1. And then my last value is going to be z. I go down 3 units, 1, 2, 3, and I go over 5 units to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's going to be z prime. And then my new shape is going to be right here in red. What are the coordinates of all of those values? I'll do x prime, y prime, and z prime. X prime is going to be right here. That is negative 3, 1. Y prime is right here. That's negative 3, negative 1. And my last value, z prime, is right here. It is going to be 0, positive 1. So these are my coordinates of y prime, x prime, and z prime. All right, so this is reflections. If you guys remember, translations was to slide, and reflection is to flip. It's really important that we understand what we are flipping over. And this says triangle ABC is being reflected over the x-axis. So I want to look at my x-axis right here. That is what I'm flipping over. So all of these points either flip over the x-axis this way or over in the opposite direction. So let's begin with A. A is originally negative 3, 3. B is 3, 4. And C, the coordinates are 3, negative 3. Beginning with letter A, because it is on this side of the x-axis, I need to flip it down. So it goes 1, 2, 3 from the x-axis. I need to go an additional 1, 2, 3. When I do that, it brings my new coordinates of A prime to be negative 3, negative 3. Moving on to letter B, I'm flipping it over this yellow line, the x-axis. It is 1, 2, 3, 4 from the x-axis. So I need to go an additional 4 to flip it completely. 1, 2, 3, 4. This new point for B prime is going to be 3, comma, negative 4. And lastly, our C value right here, it is 1, 2, 3 from the x-axis. So I need to go an additional 1, 2, 3. When I do that, my C prime value, where I ended up, is going to be 3, comma, positive 3. And if I want to see that, I can connect all of those dots, and it would look something like this. All right, so your final coordinates will be boxed here in green. And if you guys see the pattern, when I flip over the x-axis, my x values all stay the same. The only thing that changes are my y values, and they become the inverse. So that's a little trick for you guys to remember. This one's different because I'm flipping over the y-axis. I'm reflecting over the y-axis. So instead of highlighting the x-axis as I did here, I'm going to focus on the vertical axis. So let's count how far the p-value is from the line. My p-value, which is negative 2, 6. I have my q value, which is 2, comma 3. And I have my r value, which is negative 4, positive 4. So beginning with P. P is 1, 2 from the y-axis. So I need to go an additional 1, 2. My new P prime value is going to be 2, comma 6. If you guys begin to notice a number between these values, the original values, and the new values, you might see something. Moving on to letter Q, it is 1, 2 from the y-axis. So in the opposite direction, I need to go an additional 1, 2. The value of Q prime is going to be negative 2, comma 3. And then my last value is for R. It's right here. I need to go in this direction. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4. It is 4 from the y-axis. I need to go an additional 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that brings me to right here. My R prime value is going to be 4, comma 4. So right here are my final answers for my reflected image. If you guys notice a pattern, when I'm reflecting over the y-axis, the only thing that changes is the x value. They flip to become the inverse while the y values all stay the same. So again, another trick for you to remember when you're flipping over the y-axis. All right, moving on to our third type of transformation. This is a rotation. So this one says the triangle will be rotated 90 degrees clockwise. So that's really important. We're going to highlight that. What will the coordinates be of m prime? So we're focusing on the m value. Remember that 90 degrees clockwise means one turn, and then clockwise means to the right. So I'm going to take my image right here and I can just turn it. You may need to do that on your computer screens. I'm going to turn it one rotation to the right. So one rotation looks like that. And to the right means that I'm going towards my right hand. So one more time. I have my image and I'm doing one turn to the right. So it should look something like this. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on my m value. If I look at my original, my m value, which is right here, is going to be the coordinates 5, 4. So originally, my m value is 5, comma 4. After I rotate it one time to the right, I'm going to still focus on the m value, but now I'm going to forget what the original numbers were on the original axes. So what that means is I'm going to forget about these numbers that were originally on the graph. Taking a look at my m value, I can see that it is 1, 2, 3, 4 across the x-axis, and it goes down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So my coordinates for m prime are going to be positive 4, negative 5. That's because I am disregarding the numbers that were there originally and just looking at where it is after I rotate it. So my new coordinates, or m prime, are going to be 4, comma, negative 5. We're going to use the exact same procedure here, but now the only difference is I'm looking at a counterclockwise rotation. This one says the triangle is rotated 180 degrees counterclockwise. So what are the coordinates of the new triangle? Remember that 180 degrees means 2 turns, and that counterclockwise means you're going to the left side. So this is what 2 turns to the left looks like. 1, 2. All right? So before we do that, let's take a look real quick at what our original values are. M, X, and P. M is going to be the value negative 2, negative 1. P is going to be negative 5, negative 5. And X is going to be negative 2, negative 5. All right, now after I rotate it 2 times to the left, 1, 2, this is where my new shape is going to be. Remember that I'm disregarding or ignoring these original values. I'm going to pretend that they're no longer there, and I'm just going to count the values that I see. So I'm going to do this in white, pretend that these values are not there, and we're just going to count where the dots are on the new graph. All right, so let's talk about M. M prime will be right here, and that will be the coordinate 2, 1, positive 2, positive 1. When I look at X prime, that's going to be the coordinate 2, 5, because it's 2 over 5 up. And then when I look at the coordinates for P, that's going to be positive 5, positive 5. So after a rotation 180 degrees counterclockwise, your new triangle M prime, X prime, P prime will be right here boxed in pink. And then our final transformation is a dilation. So this one says the rectangle EFGH is dilated by a scale factor of 1/2 centered around the origin. All right, so what are the new coordinates? If I take a look here, I can highlight a scale factor of 1/2. You guys know if the scale factor is greater than 1, the shape is getting bigger. If the scale factor is less than 1, that means the shape is getting smaller. We saw that in the do now. So in the do now, the scale factor was 3, and this shape was going from a small shape to a larger shape. In this scenario, because the scale factor is 1/2, we're going to imagine that this shape is going to get smaller. All right, so in order for us to do that precisely, we need to figure out first, E, F, G, and H have what coordinates originally? So E has a coordinate of 2, 2. F has a coordinate of 6, 2. G has a coordinate of -6, -2, and H is 2, -2. When I figure out the image after the scale factor, all I do is multiply all of these values by 1/2. And remember that multiplying by 1/2 is the same thing as dividing by 2. So I'm going to take all these values and divide them by 2. So for E prime, 2 divided by 2 is 1. And for the second 2, 2 divided by 2 is also 1. For the next one, 6 divided by 2 is 3, and 2 divided by 2 is 1. For letter G prime, -6 divided by 2 is -3, and -2 divided by 2 is -1. For my final value, H prime, 2 divided by 2 is 1, and -2 divided by 2 is -1. So for your final answer, what are the coordinates after the dilation of 1/2? These are going to be your values in yellow. So after this, guys, go ahead and complete your practice on GoFormative, and remember to complete your exit ticket.